All right. Well, 3 minutes after the hour, I say we go ahead and get started. We'll use our time together wisely. Again, I will say good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Thank you so much to all of you who are taking time out of your busy schedules to join us for about an hour to talk about the global survey of school meal programs. As I mentioned, I'll try to be as efficient as possible, get you all back to your busy days. Let's go ahead and get started. So today's agenda, let's make sure that everybody is in the right Zoom meeting. We are here to be talking about the Global Survey of School Meal Programs, what it is, how it works, what the outputs look like, and how the results are used. We'll then talk about the potential role for implementation partners who are well represented on this call here. We'll talk about how to support government participation, how to contribute your data through the government, and what to do if the government asks you about what this survey is all about. So I hope you're all in the right place. If not, we understand if you say goodbye. Otherwise, we'll move right along. So just a brief refresher, I believe most of us are our colleagues and friends by now, but for some new folks, just in case, Global Child Nutrition Foundation for about 23 years has been working to ensure governments and their partners have the knowledge, tools, and connections they need to increase coverage of high quality school meal programs. Next slide, please. So let's go ahead and dive right in to school meals and the data landscape that was being faced prior to 2018. So prior to 2018, we didn't really know how many children around the world were benefiting from school feeding. We didn't know what they were fed. We didn't know how these programs were financed or how they were managed. We didn't know how school feeding programs were procuring food, if they were procuring it locally, if they were connected with smallholder farmers, or if they were procuring their food overseas, internationally, or by donations. We didn't know how these programs were governed, what laws and policies and standards were in place. We didn't know how children were targeted. We didn't know any job creation around school meals. And so because of this, next slide, Global Child Nutrition Foundation established the Global Survey of School Meal Programs. It's funded in part by the USDA, and it invites every single government of the world to contribute their data to the school meal program global survey. It's available in Arabic, Chinese, English, French, Japanese, Portuguese, Russian, and Spanish. The questionnaire itself was received expert contributions from academia, governments, NGOs, and UN agencies. It's updated each round. And the global survey is something that we all consider something pretty special. It is really the first successful attempt to gather this type of information based on common definitions from all countries of the world directly from government sources on a regular basis. Next slide, please. So the first two rounds of the survey have really been a wild success. We now have this type of critical information, the number of children receiving school meals, the sources of funding, the jobs that were created. We also have a sense of procurement and have an understanding of how and where school meal programs are procuring their food. We have better insights and understanding into the connections between small farmers and school meal programs, communities and school meal programs. We're learning about fortification, efforts to mitigate overweight, obesity, food waste, and more. So in total, 155 countries have contributed their data through the global survey over the first two rounds. The first round collected information on school year 2017 and included 105 countries. The second round included information on school year 2020 and included 139 questions. It is this data from the second round that makes up the majority of the data in the most recent State of School Feeding worldwide put out by the World Food Program. This third survey round is going to collect data on the 2022 school year. That is the school year that is the latest data for the majority of countries. So let's talk just really quickly, briefly about some of these results and what we now know. We know that the share of all children of primary and secondary age are receiving food through school meals at a rate of 27%. That's about 330.3 million children at a cost estimated at 35.3 billion. And that's across the 139 countries that responded to the most recent global survey of school meal programs. We've also learned that women dominate the cooking workforce in school meal programs. About 3/4 of school cooks are women. That is really exciting until we find out that 31% of those programs also don't pay those same women. So interesting information coming out of the survey, leading us to be able to identify many, many points of action. All right, so I'm going to zip through these real quickly just to show you we now have information on school meals and health and nutrition, the type of program activities that happen. Programs include nutritionists. They're providing nutrition education and incorporating health education. Next slide. We're getting some insights into fortification and biofortification. You can see the top 5 fortificants that are used mostly. We're seeing fortified foods in about 51% of programs, biofortified in 5%, and micronutrients in about 16% of programs. We're getting insights on the sources of funding. Here it is broken down by region, and then government funding, international, private sector, or other. We know that 53 countries, in 53 countries, the government is covering 100% of the cost of school feeding. We're gaining insights on overweight and obesity. Here you can see some of the approaches that programs are using, everything from nutrition and health education to setting nutritional requirements for the school meals. These are country reports. This is one of the major outputs of the survey each round. These country reports are designed to be used by countries themselves as well as their partners to help advocate for their programs as well as to set goals. So every country that completes the survey gets one of these customized reports. It includes information about the budget, the types of meals that are offered, the types of complementary activities, what's in the food basket, as well as coverage. So I want to make sure that everyone knows the website for these country reports is down at the bottom of the slide here. And you can access country reports from the past 2 survey rounds, and several of them have been translated into the relevant language as well. So these might be perceived as little case studies for each country. Please feel free to check them out. We also have both topical and regional infographics based on the data. So we have some like Sub-Saharan Africa, Latin America, and the Caribbean. We also have topical-based ones, school meals and income, school meals and health and nutrition, school meals and gender. So again, please feel free to check those all out on our website. So a lot of that was looking back at prior survey rounds. And now let us talk about the current moment and looking forward. So we have just opened the 2024 Global Survey of School Meal Programs. This is going to collect information, as I mentioned, on the 2022 school year. The questionnaire is designed to be completed by government focal points. We'll talk about them a little bit more in a moment. It's going to capture information on both a national level, so looking at the whole country, as well as the programs, the school feeding programs that operate within the country. The survey is designed to capture large-scale school feeding programs, and we will define that in a moment. This data is used to monitor progress for the goals of the School Meals Coalition. And the outputs will be finalized in Q4 of 2024. Let's peek at the next slide. Here's a little bit of a timeline. I hope folks can see it. We revised the questionnaire this summer based on feedback from users and from experts. So thank you to many of you who contributed feedback to make sure that we update the questionnaire in the most relevant and helpful ways. It's now been translated into the languages, and data collection has opened last month in November, and it will last through May of 2024. June through September, we will do the data analysis, we will write our country reports, and finally, we will be able to launch the full global report and the infographics at the end of 2024. This is a sneak peek at the website. I wanted to make sure that everybody knew that the full questionnaire, the survey itself, the glossary, and extra sections are all available on our website if you want to take a peek. Right up top on this drop down under survey is where you would find the current survey. As I mentioned, it's available in all the languages that I mentioned, as well as the other components of the survey. So I want to talk a little bit about how the survey is structured. I mentioned it's like a 43-page document. It's pretty intense. It is what I call a national program sandwich. So the first few questions on the page, the first few sections are about the national picture of school feeding in the country, overall number of children being fed, listing out the number of programs that the country has. The middle of the sandwich, sections C through I, are program level questions related to the specific school feeding program. And then we end the sandwich with some more national level questions around successes and challenges. So I think this is an important component for folks to get their heads around, that countries might need to complete the program level section, that middle section, C through I, up to 6 times. So for example, a country might need to fill out section C through I for their government-led lunch program. And if we can click a little forward a little bit more, they might need to fill out another section C through I for the government-led breakfast program. They might need to fill out another section C through I for a CRS-led program in the country. They might need to fill out another section C through I for a WFP program run in the country. And they might need to fill out a 5th for a Nascent Solutions program running in the country. So this is completely just made up examples, but countries do have up to 6 different programs being run. And this is how the survey would capture that information, by having multiple sections C through I, the program section. I want to make sure that everybody knows about our global team, who is positioned around the globe to help support the survey. Our team is well-versed in multiple languages. Just the team on this here page speaks English, French, Portuguese, Spanish, and African Creole. As we keep going through to the rest of our team, we see English, French, Spanish, Arabic, and Italian. Our team covers here. And moving on, we have English, Russian, and Hindi. So we work really hard to make sure that we're accessible to our government focal points. So let's talk a little bit more about the survey process. We invite 194 countries to participate in the survey. These are the countries with a UN seat, as well as those with observer status. We invite them to nominate a focal point, and the focal point's role is to gather the data from various ministries and partners, such as you. They ensure that there is permission to share the data in a public database. They submit the survey. The survey can be submitted via an online survey, a fillable PDF, or a Word document, depending on the preference of the focal point. The focal point participates in a data review clarification process, so we're able to do some verifications along the way, and in many cases we go back to the focal point for clarification. And this focal point also receives and disseminates the country report. So in the next click, you'll see here this little asterisk next to outreach to the ministry most likely responsible for school feeding. This is We can stick back on, yes, thank you. This is one of the key areas where partners come into play, like all of you on the phone. We've done the survey round for 2 years now. For 2 rounds, we keep in touch with the focal points, but they do change quite frequently. And there are times that we rely on many of you to help us find the right contacts within particular ministries. So I wanted to highlight the importance of partners at that step of doing our initial outreach. Then the photo on the bottom is Viore from Fiji, from the Ministry of Education in Fiji. This is just a sample photo of her from our forum, but it's here because I want to highlight the role of the focal point is so important. And it is this focal point that collects the data from across ministries and partners. It is this focal point that might reach out to you for ask for programmatic information on the programs that you are leading. All right, on the next slide here, I've been talking about large-scale school feeding programs. Those are the types of programs that we're trying to capture on the survey. And you might be asking yourself, well, do I lead a large-scale school feeding program? What qualifies? What counts? This is some guidance on what might constitute a large-scale school feeding program based on the size of primary and secondary student population in the country. So these thresholds are intended to provide you with just a rough estimate for which programs should be captured on the survey. So let's talk a little bit more about supporting governments in this process. So it's likely that you might hear from governments about this survey, and some messages that you might choose to share are presented here. You might actively reach out to your contacts in the government and letting them know that you're aware that the Global Survey of School Meal Programs is currently collecting data, and inquire if they've participated yet. You can provide a helpful reference for GCNF, letting them know that the data is collected by GCNF, a neutral, impartial, and independent international NGO. You can let them know that participating in the global survey aligns with the goals of the School Meals Coalition. You can tell them that after data analysis, they'll receive a customized country report with their own data. You can share the message that this data are used by WFP, the School Meals Coalition, UNESCO, FAO, donors, decision makers, and governments to make informed decisions. So of course, these are just sample messages that you might choose to share. So we also have great interest in your program data, right? And governments might reach out to you about your data. In most cases, implementing partners, many of you on the call, want your programs to be accurately portrayed on the global survey, and we want that too. So it is appropriate for implementing partners to contribute to program level data upon government request. As we communicate with governments, we're communicating with them to let them know that they need to collect the data from across ministries and to reach out to some partners to collect program level data as well. If that's the case, and they come to you, the idea would be that you would contribute data for sections C through I. That's the program level section. So for example, we use Burkina Faso here. It would be appropriate, they have a CRS program and a WFP program. So it would be appropriate for the government focal point to ask that a CRS partner fills out the program section and a WFP partner also fills out a program section. Alternatively, the government focal point might just ask you for a couple data points. In most cases, the implementing partners should not be completing the full survey, rather just the program section. There might be case-specific instances where this is a little bit different, but in general, one of the real strengths of this survey is that the data comes directly from governments themselves. So I want to be clear that it's a comprehensive questionnaire. Like I said, it's 45 pages. The questions themselves can help governments and maybe even partners think about the various aspects of school feeding and how they can be monitored and measured for progress and impact. That said, I want to make very clear that it is okay for you as a program implementer to leave questions blank, and it is okay for the government to leave questions blank. It is not necessarily expected that every government, every country is going to be able to answer every question of a 45-page questionnaire. So no need to panic when you see the questions. We will love the information that you do have and understand that in many cases, we're still developing capacity and procedures for following up and measuring data, measuring the programs. In the revision that we did for the questionnaire this year, you will find new questions on climate change, cooking fuel, plate waste, packaging waste, food waste, alternative staple crops, emergency management, and the school food environment. So those changes are going to be seen in the new questionnaire. So a couple final points here. I want to be really clear that it's the government appointed focal point that's going to decide what programs are included on the survey. So we don't get to decide that. Those implementing programs don't necessarily get to decide that. It's really going to be up to that government focal point to accept, yes, this is the large scale program and we do want to report it on our survey. One of the things that we're trying to do here is increase our GC&F's own knowledge of large-scale programs operating in the country outside of the government's purview. And if we have that information, where feasible and where appropriate, we might be able to nudge governments to reach out to you if you're running a large-scale program so that they are encouraged to include your information on the survey. So our plan to capture that information is that we'll send the organizational leads, most of whom we have contact with, a spreadsheet that will help collect what countries are you working in, what is the country contact person, and what's that contact information, so that we can help connect your programs to governments. So that in a swift 25 minutes is my brief sharing with all of you of the survey, how it works, the type of outputs we get, and the types of inquiries and supports that we can provide governments together over the next few months. So we'll open it up for questions, I think now. Please be brave and feel free to ask a question.
Hello.
Hi, welcome. Thank you. Please go ahead.
Yes, my name is Robert Chizimba. I'm the Chief Operator for Nascent Solutions, Malawi.
Excellent. Hello, sir. Thank you for being with us.
Yes, so I just have a comment and maybe just to seek a clarification from you. You made a mention, but it makes it for me just to be clear. So for Malawi, just a comment quickly. Yes, it is very encouraging to note that the government is now on top of that, because we had a meeting where they invited us to say there is this request. We need to work together as a team, largely because in Malawi, if you look at maybe some previous reports, we had some challenges in terms of like data gaps, but also even delayed submission. But this time around, the government is on top to say we needed to work together as a team. And Nascent Solutions has also been asked to take lead in terms of just maybe inviting fellow partners, WFP, Meles Mills in Malawi, and others who are indeed doing great. Then we meet. They want to just walk us through, number one, the whole the survey tool, and ask some questions and ask us to be completing and then work with the government in that particular fashion. So this is what is happening in Malawi, and we think and believe that we'll meet the deadline, and even the data quality will be improved, because now everybody who is doing school feeding program in Malawi would be on the same page. And I'm also happy to report that Nascent Solutions is taking indeed a substantial support, supporting or lead in terms of supporting government on this particular issue. So basically, that's what I just wanted to share with you. But maybe the question is, for example, for the case of Malawi, is it ideal or is it acceptable that indeed maybe once we meet, we go through the question, the tool, then in a workshop setting or in that particular working session, you begin completing that, maybe each one on the institution on their own, or maybe as a team. Is it acceptable, or we need just to work independently of that and just take that data, give it to government? Thank you.
Excellent question. I want to reflect that the process that you described this year for how the government is reaching out to the multiple implementing partners and saying, let's get together, go through the survey and fill it out is fantastic.
Thank you.
Excuse me. One of the pieces of feedback that we get from governments is that completing the survey and engaging their partners is a wonderful learning experience for them. We've received feedback from governments that said, we knew program A and B were in the country, but we didn't even know that there was programs C, D, and E as well. And so that process that you're willing to go through with the government and that they're willing to do with all the partners really sounds fantastic. And you'll all walk away with stronger understanding of what's happening with school feeding in Malawi. So yes, coming together to work on it with a team is a fabulous approach.
Thank you.
And while somebody is thinking of their next question, I'm going to pause for a moment to blow my nose. So another thing.
Hi. Yeah, Heidi, hi, I can jump in. Amanda with World Vision, nice to see you again. No big question, but just a sincere thanks for explaining the process. I think this is really, really helpful for us to understand and to be able to support, where it's warranted, where it's needed. And a request as a follow-up to this call, if we could have like a summary in an email to be able to easily share across we have like a few field offices that could use the information. So we'll roll it out. But
yes,
thanks so much.
That's feasible. Thank you, Amanda. Appreciate it. So we see a question in the chat here from Marlene. What if the government is worried that the survey is an evaluation? That's a really, really good question. Here we are, an NGO asking for quite a bit of data from a government, and sometimes they can be skeptical. I mentioned earlier that providing a reference for GCNF is sometimes very helpful, reminding them that you know who we are. We've been around for 23 years and we're an impartial data collector. Also, governments can be concerned that they had a crisis this year and schools were closed and it's not representative of a normal school feeding year for them. And maybe they don't want to put in their data. Reassure them that many countries in the world have had significant number of crises. We're having climate change, we're having conflict, we're having supply chain problems. It's not really a typical year for most countries. And so putting the data in as is, truly reflective of the situation that school meal programs are in. And so we still want to collect the information. And third, this is not an evaluation. This is monitoring. We are monitoring progress and changes. It is attempts to be as judgment-free as possible, collecting the facts of what is happening in the country and reflecting that back out to the world. Thank you. We have pretty comprehensive tracking on all 194 countries. So if over time you start to wonder if a country that you're focused on and that you're working with has responded yet, you're welcome to check in with us. We'll answer as best we can, provide updates as to where we are with countries if you're curious. If you want to know if your program has been submitted, please feel free to communicate with us. My email is on the slides, heidi@gcnf.org. You can also reach out to info@gcnf.org, and also the emails of the full global team that and what languages they speak is available on the website. Suzanne, please, would you like to join us with a question?
Yes. Okay, I know what on the survey, I'd like to first of all introduce myself. My name is Suzanne from Nigeria. I am the nutrition consultant in the National Homegrown Feeding Program. At this point, I'm just like to state that we're there in the last GCNF that held last year. We're there in Benin Republic, and we represent Nigeria. We gave some updates on what Nigeria is doing as far as feeding is concerned. And I would like to also announce that we've made tremendous successes. After then, we have a policy now on the school feeding program that has been signed and then has been approved by the legislative government. And we have also expanded the program to cover over 10 million children. We're currently looking at further scaling of all these. We are planning that the new year 2024 begins, the expansion will start. And we also have been able to include more partners, partners we have gained now supporting the feeding program, apart from the World Program was the initial major supporter of the feeding program in Nigeria. We have Global Alliance for Food Nutrition supporting. We also have IFPRI, and we have a couple of other partners that have really come to strengthen the implementation of the program in Nigeria. So this is the update as far as Nigeria is concerned. We look forward to participating in the survey. We look forward to being there live in the next GCNF and reporting more on what the Nigerian government is doing. As you know, that Nigeria has the highest number of beneficiaries of the food stamp program as far as Africa is concerned. I think we're second to India. And this is something that we're keen about and we're very passionate. And we look forward to engaging at the next GCNF. So we'll be providing all the information needed in the survey. And if we have further questions, communicate with you. Thank you very much.
Fantastic, Suzanne. Thank you so much. We were not able to get every word, but we did manage to capture pieces of your update. Thank you for your engagement and participation, and congratulations on having a new policy and law in place. That is significant milestone to achieve. Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you.
Any other thoughts, questions, concerns? Our goal with the government is really to just make sure that that we are all aligned, that everyone is aware of the global survey, that governments feel that it's coordinated well amongst partners within the School Meals Coalition, within partners and implementing partners. So presenting a united front, a consistent front, and shared messaging to the government. So really hopefully them feel very well supported by multiple entities. I have a note that Susan mentioned the forum. Yes, thank you. So I am really pleased to share that there will be a 2024 forum. We yielded the calendar in 2023 to the School Meals Coalition ministerial event that happened in October. So that was 2023, but for 2024, we will be holding a Global Child Nutrition Forum again. As many of you know, we have done this for 23 years, and it brings together governments and their partners for a multi-day peer-to-peer exchange on school meal programs. As many of the ministerial level folks were really focused on driving political will at the ministerial meeting, making the commitments, identifying the funding, those types of things. The forum is going to be really practitioner based and operational and technical in nature. So we hope that all of you will be able to attend. We hope that you'll be able to bring your government partners. As folks know, travel funding is difficult for all of our organizations. I'm sure it's also difficult for government partners. They rely on many of you to help support their engagement in these types of capacity building and technical assistance events. So please keep that in mind. It will be in Q4 of 2024, October, November, or December. And we are keeping the country still under our hats. I'm sorry that I can't yet announce it. I know it makes it hard for some of us to begin imagining and planning, but please know it will be happening. We hope to see you all there. We'll also be looking for you to share your expertise and experience. Who else wants to jump in with a question, a comment, a concern? Feel free to type anything into the chat if that's preferred. Anybody from the GCNF team have anything to add? Anything I may have overlooked? Well, I am pleased that the greatest gift I might be able to give you all today is an extra 21 minutes in your agenda. My hope is that we have opened the doors of communication. Please feel free to reach out to GCNF at any time. Ask us what's going on here, what's going on there. We're more than happy to engage with all of you. We have really enjoyed over the past several weeks and will continue for months to come, spending more time with many of you implementation partners and understanding your strengths, as well as your challenges, which help inform our advocacy. So many thanks to all of you who have been longtime supporters of GCNF. And thanks for the work that you continue to do to help provide a united front as we all work together to support these governments. Thanks, everyone.